Have you ever walked away from a confrontation feeling like you lost, even though you were right the entire time? That sinking feeling when someone disrespects you and somehow they end up looking confident while you're left questioning yourself. It's like being punched in the gut by reality itself. What I'm about to share with you isn't just another self-help theory. It's a battle-tested system that's been forging unbreakable people for over 2,000 years. By the end of this video, you'll understand why you've been losing battles you should be winning, and more importantly, how to flip the script completely. The ancient Stoics discovered something most people never learn. True strength doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to. And today you're going to learn how to cultivate that kind of quiet, devastating power. But first, we need to diagnose exactly what's been sabotaging you. Picture this. Someone at work throws you under the bus in front of everyone. Your heart starts racing, your face gets hot. Every fiber of your being wants to fire back immediately. So you do. You defend yourself. You explain your side. You try to set the record straight. And in that moment, you just handed them your power on a silver platter. Here's what actually happened. They tested whether they could control your emotional state, and you proved they could. They wanted a reaction, and you gave them exactly what they were looking for. According to Stoic philosophy, the moment you let someone else's actions dictate your emotional response, you've become their puppet. You're no longer in control of your own experience. The Stoics understood that your emotions are your responsibility, not theirs. When you react emotionally to provocation, you're essentially saying, "You have more control over how I feel than I do." After the emotional reaction comes phase 2, the desperate need to be understood. You start crafting long text messages explaining your position. You pull co-workers aside to tell them your side of the story. You replay the conversation in your head, thinking of all the perfect things you should have said. But here's the brutal truth. The more you explain yourself, the weaker you appear. Strong people don't need to justify their every move. Confident people don't require constant validation of their perspective. Powerful people understand that not everyone needs to understand them. The Stoics taught that truth doesn't need frantic defenders. Truth simply exists. Those who can see it will see it without your desperate explanations. The third and most destructive trap is seeking approval from the very person who showed you disrespect. You keep checking to see if they've acknowledged they were wrong. You keep hoping for an apology that's never coming. You keep giving them power over your peace of mind. This is emotional begging. You're asking for crumbs of respect from someone who already showed you they don't value you. Stoic philosophy teaches us about self-reliance, not just financial or physical, but emotional self-reliance. When you need validation from someone who disrespected you, you're violating this fundamental principle. Here's the cruel irony. All these responses come from good intentions. You want to maintain your dignity. You want justice. You want to be understood. But you're using strategies that accomplish the exact opposite. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Your intentions are pure, but your methods are feeding the very problem you're trying to solve. When you fall into these traps, the result is always the same. They gain more power over you while you lose credibility and self-respect. They walk away feeling superior, having confirmed they can manipulate your emotions at will. You walk away feeling frustrated, misunderstood, and somehow like you're the problem. It becomes a vicious cycle that repeats in different contexts, with different people, but always following the same destructive pattern. The ancient Stoics discovered something profound about human nature. Real strength doesn't defend itself desperately, doesn't seek external validation, and doesn't react emotionally to provocation. Real strength is quiet, internal, and self-contained. When Marcus Aurelius wrote his personal reflections, he wasn't trying to convince anyone of anything. He was building his own inner fortress, regardless of what others thought about him. This is the difference between appearing strong and being strong. Appearing strong requires an audience, requires validation, requires others to acknowledge your power. Being strong requires none of that. But there comes a moment when something shifts inside you. A moment when you realize that your current approach isn't just ineffective, it's self-destructive. You realize that every time you react emotionally, you're training people to push your buttons. Every time you over-explain, You're teaching people that your boundaries are negotiable. Every time you seek validation from those who disrespect you, you're confirming their belief that they're superior to you. This realization is both painful and liberating. Painful because you see how you've been sabotaging yourself. Liberating because you finally understand what needs to change. The shift begins when you stop asking, "How can I make them understand?" and start asking, "How can I become unaffected by their misunderstanding?" It begins when you stop asking, "How can I prove I'm right?" and start asking, "How can I become so secure in my truth that I don't need their agreement?" It begins when you stop asking, "How can I get their respect?" and start asking, "How can I respect myself so completely that their opinion becomes irrelevant?" This internal shift is the foundation of everything that follows. Without this shift, all the strategies in the world won't help you. But once this shift occurs, something remarkable becomes possible. You can begin to develop a type of strength that catches people completely off guard. Let's revisit that same workplace scenario, but this time with a completely different response. Your colleague disrespects you in front of others. But instead of defending yourself, instead of explaining, instead of reacting emotionally, you do something unexpected. You remain silent. Not the silence of someone who's been defeated, not the silence of someone who doesn't know what to say, the silence of someone who knows something others don't. You look at them calmly, perhaps nod slightly, and continue with your work. What just happened? You broke their pattern. They expected a reaction, and you gave them nothing to work with. Strategic silence is one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic arsenal. It's not passivity. It's not weakness. It's a conscious choice not to participate in someone else's emotional game. Stoic philosophy teaches us that well-employed silence has more power than 1,000 desperate words. Because silence forces the other person to question whether they actually affected you. After the silence comes the calculated absence. You stop following them on social media. You stop looking for opportunities to interact with them. You stop asking others about them. You're not obviously avoiding them. They're simply no longer on your emotional radar. This calculated absence is deeply disturbing to someone who expected to keep you hooked on the drama. They expected continued reactions, continued attention, continued emotional investment. But now you're an emotional ghost to them. You're physically present in the same spaces, but emotionally unreachable. While they're still waiting for your reaction, you've redirected all your energy toward your own growth. You focus completely on your projects. You improve your skills. You work on your physical health. You develop new competencies. You build meaningful new relationships. You're not doing this to prove anything to anyone. You're doing it because this is what a person with genuine self-respect does, focuses on what they can control, which is their own development. The Stoics called this concept ta f hemin, what depends on us. Your growth depends on you, not on the validation or recognition of others. While you're growing quietly, something interesting happens in the mind of the person who disrespected you. First, they feel confused. They didn't get the reaction they expected. The drama they created didn't have the desired effect. Second, they start feeling uncomfortable with your indifference. Your silence disturbs them more than any argument you could have made. Third, they begin to notice your growth. They see that you weren't affected as they expected. They see that you're moving forward without them. Hey, if this is hitting home for you, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're building a community of people who understand real inner power. Now let's keep going. The first pillar is disturbing silence. This isn't just any silence. This is the silence of someone who knows something others don't. The silence of someone who doesn't need to prove their worth through words. The second pillar is strategic absence. You withdraw from their emotional game. You don't play by their rules. You don't participate in their drama. You're simply not available for that. The third pillar is internal focus. Your energy goes toward your growth, not toward proving points. Toward construction, not destruction. Toward your evolution, not toward revenge. According to Stoicism, the greatest victory is maintaining calm when everyone expects you to explode. It's keeping your center when everything around you is chaos. The Stoic philosophers understood that the most effective revenge isn't harming those who hurt you. The most effective revenge is becoming someone so elevated that their opinion of you becomes irrelevant. You don't become arrogant or contemptuous. You become emotionally self-sufficient. Your peace doesn't depend on others' approval. Your value doesn't need external validation. 6 months later, something extraordinary happens. You've evolved. You've improved physically, mentally, professionally. You've built new relationships. You've achieved new goals. And the same person who disrespected you now tries to reconnect. Maybe with a casual excuse, maybe with an apparent peace offering, maybe just trying to regain access to your energy. But here's the difference. Now you're unreachable. Not because you're resentful, not because you haven't forgiven, but because you've evolved to a level where their drama can no longer touch you. You're polite, but distant. Cordial, but not emotionally available. Civilized, but not vulnerable. At this moment, the power has completely inverted. Now they're the one who needs your attention. Now they're the one seeking your approval. Now they're the one feeling insecure about where they stand with you. But here's the beauty of Stoic philosophy. You don't need to rub their changed attitude in their face. You don't need to be petty or vengeful. You simply continue being who you've become. Someone who doesn't need to prove their worth through conflicts. The most important part of this entire process isn't what others think of you. The most important part is what you've discovered about yourself. You've discovered that you have the capacity to maintain your dignity without desperate defenses. You've discovered that you can grow in silence. You've discovered that your worth doesn't depend on validation from those who don't value you. This is the true Stoic victory, not defeating others, but conquering your own need to defeat others. But this transformation doesn't stop with just one situation. It begins to affect every area of your life. People who used to take advantage of your reactions start treating you differently. They sense that something has changed in your energy, even if they can't articulate what it is. Opportunities that were previously unavailable start opening up. Not because you're chasing them, but because your new energy attracts different types of situations and people. Relationships that were draining and toxic naturally fade away, while healthier, more fulfilling connections begin to form. Here's the paradox. The less you need others' respect, the more respect you naturally command. The less you need others' approval, the more approval you naturally receive. The less you need to prove your worth, the more valuable others naturally perceive you to be. This isn't manipulation or strategy. This is the natural result of becoming genuinely self-sufficient. But even this level of transformation is just the beginning. There's a deeper level that most people never reach, becoming completely immune to the emotional manipulation of others. This isn't about becoming cold or disconnected. It's about becoming so grounded in your own center that external chaos can't shake your internal peace. After months of applying Stoic principles, something fundamental shifts in your entire being. You're no longer someone who can be easily hurt. You're no longer someone who needs to defend themselves. You're no longer someone who seeks external validation. You've become someone who cannot be reached by others' drama. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of consistent internal work, daily practice of Stoic principles, and a gradual rewiring of your automatic responses. An untouchable person never reacts the way others expect. When someone tries to provoke you, you don't explode as they anticipated. When someone tries to ignore you, you don't chase their attention as they expected. When someone tries to manipulate you, you don't fall into their trap as they expected. This unpredictability isn't tactical. It's the natural result of freeing yourself from the need to meet others' expectations. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true freedom begins when you stop being enslaved by the reactions others expect from you. An untouchable person is always evolving. While others remain stuck in the same drama patterns, you keep growing. While others have the same toxic conversations, you're developing new skills. While others stay in the same gossip circles, you're building your future. This constant evolution makes it impossible for others to keep up with you. They can't predict who you'll be tomorrow because you yourself are in constant transformation. Your presence becomes a privilege, not a right. You don't become arrogant or unreachable. You become selective with your emotional energy. You're no longer available for just any drama. You no longer participate in just any toxic conversation. You no longer invest your time in relationships that don't add value to your life. The Stoics understood that our attention is our most valuable resource. When you learn to protect your attention, you automatically become more valuable to others. Your peace doesn't depend on anyone else. You don't need others to validate you to feel good about yourself. You don't need others to understand you to know you have value. You don't need others to approve of you to know you're doing the right thing. This emotional self-sufficiency is the foundation of all real power. When you need nothing from anyone, paradoxically, everyone wants to give you something. The ultimate test of your transformation comes when someone who hurt you in the past tries to re-enter your life. You don't react with resentment. You don't react with triumph. You don't react with drama. You simply evaluate the situation from your new perspective. Does this person add value to my current life? Does this relationship help me grow? Is this connection aligned with who I've become? If the answer is no, you maintain your distance with elegance. If the answer is yes, you open the door with clear conditions. According to Stoicism, the best revenge isn't becoming like your enemy. The best revenge is becoming someone so elevated that they can no longer reach you. Stoic philosophers teach us that real power doesn't come from controlling others, but from not needing to control others. It comes from being so complete within yourself that others' approval or disapproval becomes irrelevant. When you become truly untouchable, something interesting happens in your environment. People who used to treat you poorly begin treating you with more respect. Not because you've changed your behavior toward them, but because they've sensed a change in your energy. People who used to ignore you begin paying you more attention. Not because you seek their attention, but because your indifference to their attention makes you more intriguing. People who used to underestimate you begin recognizing your value. Not because you try to prove your value, but because your lack of need to prove your value communicates that you are valuable. This is the great paradox of Stoic power. The less you need power over others, the more power you naturally possess. The less you need others' approval, the more approval you naturally receive. The less you need to prove your worth, the more worthwhile you naturally become. But here's the most important revelation of all. The only person you really need to defeat is who you were yesterday. You don't need to defeat those who hurt you. You don't need to defeat those who underestimated you. You don't need to defeat those who didn't value you. You only need to defeat yourself. You only need to overcome your own limitations. You only need to become the best version of who you can be. The true victory isn't when others recognize your strength. The true victory is when you no longer need others to recognize your strength. It's not when you gain respect. It's when you no longer need the respect of those who didn't respect you. It's not when you prove you were right. It's when you no longer need to prove you were right. The Stoics teach us that true freedom isn't being able to do whatever you want. True freedom is not needing to do anything to prove your worth. When you reach this level of internal freedom, you become completely immune to human drama. You become immune to emotional manipulation. You become incapable of being hurt by those who don't deserve the power to hurt you. 6 months after beginning this journey, you're not the same person. You're physically stronger, you're mentally clearer, you're emotionally more stable, you're spiritually more connected to yourself. But more important than all of that, you're untouchable. You're not untouchable because you've closed yourself off from the world. You're untouchable because you've opened yourself to your true power. You're not untouchable because you've built walls. You're untouchable because you've built an inner fortress so solid that you no longer need walls. In this new reality, people who once hurt you can no longer do so. Not because you've changed external circumstances, but because you've changed your internal reality. In this new reality, others' opinions of you no longer determine your worth. Your worth comes from within, is constant, is unshakable. In this new reality, you're the architect of your own experience. You're not a victim of others' actions. You're the creator of your own responses. Month 1, you stop reacting emotionally to provocation. Month 2, you begin focusing entirely on your own growth. Month 3, others start noticing your changed energy. Month 4, old patterns of interaction no longer work on you. Month 5, you become genuinely indifferent to past hurts. Month 6. You're completely transformed into someone untouchable. At the mastery level, you don't just avoid being hurt by others. You become someone who elevates others through your presence. People leave interactions with you feeling better about themselves, not because you flatter them, but because your inner peace is contagious. Your strength becomes a lighthouse for others who are still struggling with their own emotional reactions. The most beautiful part of this transformation is that it doesn't just change you. It changes everyone around you. Your family sees a different version of you. Your co-workers interact with a new energy. Your friends experience someone who's more present, more grounded, more genuinely confident. You become living proof that it's possible to transform pain into power, weakness into strength, reactivity into responsibility. This is the invitation that Stoic philosophy extends to you. Become someone who cannot be touched by others' drama. Not because you've become insensitive, but because you've become selective about what you allow to affect you. Not because you've become cold, but because you've learned to protect your inner fire from external storms. Not because you've become arrogant, but because you've discovered that you don't need to prove your worth to those who cannot recognize it. Are you going to keep proving your worth to people who never valued you? Or are you going to become so elevated that no one will dare underestimate you again? The choice is yours. But remember, every day you spend trying to convince others of your value is one less day you invest in building that real value. The Stoics teach us that time is our most precious resource. Don't waste it on battles you don't need to win with people who don't deserve your energy. Invest that time in becoming who you really want to be, in developing the skills that truly matter, in building relationships that actually add value to your life. The person who disrespected you 6 months ago, they're probably still the same person, having the same arguments, dealing with the same drama. But you've transformed into someone completely different, someone who can't be reached by petty conflicts, someone who commands respect without demanding it, someone who has found their unshakable center. Which of these 3 parts impacted you the most? Was it understanding why you seem weak, learning about silent strength, or discovering how to become untouchable? Drop a comment below and share what resonated most with you. Hit that like button if this content helped you see things from a new perspective, and subscribe to the channel, because this is where we learn to transform pain into real power. I'll see you in the next video.